Picture this. You're standing in your bathroom, staring at yourself in the mirror. In one hand, you're holding a $60 bottle of fat burners that you bought at 11 p.m. after falling into a late-night social media rabbit hole. The label says, Extreme Thermogenic. The bottle looks like something out of a sci-fi lab. And you're hoping this is the one. You pop a pill, wait 10 minutes, and suddenly you're wondering, where's the six-pack I was promised? Welcome to the reality check. Hey friends, I'm Eva Carter, your no BS fitness coach. I'm here to help you burn fat myths, not just calories. If you've ever felt tempted by a flashy supplement ad or convinced yourself that a capsule could replace your gym sessions, you're not alone. I've been there, most of us have. But here's the deal. The supplement industry is a multi-billion-dollar machine. And one of its favorite moneymakers? Fat burners. They promise fast results, zero effort, and abs by next Tuesday. But what's the science behind the hype? Are these supplements actually effective, or are they just burning through your wallet? Today, we're diving deep into the world of fat burners and weight loss supplements. We'll break down what's in them, what the research says, who might actually benefit, and who's just wasting their time. Along the way, I'll share a few wild personal stories and even drop a hot take or two. Do they work? Are they safe? And most importantly, should you even bother? Let's find out. Let me take you back for a second. I was 22, broke, stressed out, and exactly 3 weeks away from a beach trip that I was absolutely not ready for. I had this wild idea in my head that if I just found the right pill, the weight would magically melt off. I didn't have a proper meal plan. I wasn't training consistently, but I believed, truly believed, that a supplement could shortcut all of that. So I did what most desperate 20-somethings do. I ordered a bunch of random fat burners online. Green tea extract, raspberry ketones, some sketchy-looking thermogenic blend that came in a bottle with lightning bolts on it. One of them actually said, melts fat fast, on the label. Like it was a tub of butter on a hot skillet. Looking back, it's kinda funny, but at the time, I was all in. I remember taking them in the morning before work. Heart racing by 9 a.m., jittery by 10. And completely crashing by lunch. But I kept doing it. Because I was sold on the idea that if I just stuck with it, the six-pack would show up eventually. Spoiler alert, it didn't. What I got instead was insomnia, anxiety, and zero progress, not to mention an empty wallet. Now, let's talk about why these products are so tempting. It's not just the promise of fast results, it's the whole package. The flashy labels, the confident marketing language, the influencers flexing in front of ring lights saying it changed their life. You see someone with ripped abs holding a bottle of something called Shred X Inferno, and your brain goes, maybe this is it. Maybe this is what I'm missing. There's also the illusion that fat loss should be fast and easy. We're wired to want quick results. And when the alternative is months of discipline, workouts, and boring meal prep, a 2 capsules a day promise feels pretty irresistible. But here's the truth a lot of people don't want to hear. Most fat burners aren't magic. In fact, many of them are just glorified caffeine pills. They might increase your heart rate, make you sweat more, and suppress your appetite temporarily. But that doesn't mean they're helping you lose fat in any meaningful or sustainable way. And here's where things get a little controversial. The supplement industry, especially when it comes to weight loss products, is not as tightly regulated as people assume. In many countries, including the US, supplements don't require pre-approval from the FDA before they hit the shelves. That means companies can market a product with bold claims, as long as they slap a tiny disclaimer on the label saying, these statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. Some products contain ingredients that aren't backed by science. Others contain ingredients in amounts so low that they have no real effect. And occasionally, you'll find supplements that include banned or risky substances without disclosing them. That's not just misleading, it can be dangerous. Now let's break down what's actually in most of these fat burners. There are a few common ingredients that show up again and again. First up is caffeine, probably the most effective and well-researched ingredient in fat burners. Caffeine can increase energy expenditure slightly, and it does help suppress appetite in some people. It also improves workout performance, which can indirectly help with fat loss. But here's the key word: slightly. The effects aren't huge, and they certainly won't override a bad diet or a lack of movement. Next is green tea extract, often listed as EGCG. It's been studied quite a bit and does have some mild thermogenic properties. But again, the results are modest. Most studies show only small differences in fat loss when green tea is added to a well-controlled diet and exercise plan. On its own, it's not going to do much. Then there's L-carnitine, which is marketed as a fat transporter. The idea is that it helps shuttle fat into the mitochondria where it can be burned for energy. Sounds great in theory, right? But in practice, most research shows that unless you're deficient in L-carnitine, supplementing it doesn't lead to more fat being burned, especially in people who already eat a balanced diet. Another one is CLA, conjugated linoleic acid. It's a fatty acid found in meat and dairy, and supplement companies love to claim it helps reduce body fat. Some early studies looked promising, but the more recent meta-analyses show that any effect is minimal and not consistent across the board. And it often comes with gastrointestinal side effects that make it not worth the trouble. A more aggressive and controversial ingredient is yohimbine. This one actually can stimulate fat loss in some people by increasing adrenaline and blocking certain receptors that inhibit fat breakdown. But it also comes with a higher risk of side effects, like elevated heart rate, anxiety, and high blood pressure. It's banned in some countries and tightly regulated in others. Yet it's still available in many over-the-counter supplements. Not ideal. So, what does all this mean? It means that most fat-burning supplements offer marginal benefits at best. And only when paired with proper diet and training. The idea that you can pop a pill and watch fat melt away without changing your lifestyle is a myth. And it's a dangerous one because it keeps people distracted from what actually works: consistent habits, real food, strength training, and sleep. Here's what the research really tells us: if you're in a calorie deficit, working out regularly, and managing your stress, you might see some small added benefit from certain ingredients like caffeine or green tea extract. But that benefit is more like a 1 to 2% boost, not a game changer. And if your sleep is trash, your meals are inconsistent, and you're relying on fat burners to do the heavy lifting, spoiler alert, it's not going to work. In fact, it might just leave you frustrated, tired, and more likely to give up. So the next time you see a flashy ad or a bottle that promises to torch belly fat in 14 days, ask yourself this: is it worth the hype? Or is that money better spent on something that actually supports your goals, like quality food, a gym membership, or maybe even a few sessions with a coach? Because at the end of the day, fat loss isn't about finding the perfect pill. It's about building the kind of lifestyle that makes fat loss inevitable. Alright, let's pull back the curtain and take a look inside these so-called miracle pills. Because what's actually in these fat burners? Most of them have a long list of ingredients that sound scientific, exotic, or borderline magical. But let's be real, most of them don't live up to the hype. Let's start with a fan favorite, green tea extract. It usually shows up on the label as EGCG. Sounds fancy, right? In reality, it's basically your morning matcha, but angry. Yes, green tea extract does have some thermogenic properties. It can slightly increase calorie burn, especially when combined with caffeine. But the effects are small. Think: a few extra calories burned per day. Not exactly the fat-melting firestorm the marketing suggests. Then there's CLA, or conjugated linoleic acid. This one always sounds impressive, like something your biochemist friend would recommend. But here's the truth: the science is underwhelming. Some early studies suggested CLA might help reduce body fat. But more recent research has been disappointing. Results are inconsistent, and the overall fat loss effects are pretty meh. Plus, for some people, CLA causes digestive issues that are anything but worth it. So, you're not just losing fat, you might be losing friends too. Next up, we have yohimbine. This one's spicy, literally and figuratively. It's derived from the bark of an African tree and is marketed as a potent fat burner. There's some evidence it can help mobilize fat, especially when fasted, but it comes with a laundry list of side effects. Increased heart rate, anxiety, jitters, even elevated blood pressure. And let's not ignore the fact that it's banned or restricted in several countries due to those risks. Yet here it is, still available in over-the-counter fat burners. If it sounds intense, that's because it is. This is one of those ingredients where the potential danger can outweigh the tiny potential benefits. Let's not forget L-carnitine. This one gets marketed as the fat transporter. Like it's the Uber of your metabolism, just scooping up fat and dropping it off to be burned for energy. Cute idea, but the science doesn't back it up for most people. Unless you're severely deficient in L-carnitine, supplementing with it likely won't make a noticeable difference in fat loss. Some studies show a tiny edge, mostly in older populations or people with specific health conditions. But for the average healthy person, not much to see here. Here's the thing. When you look at the full list of ingredients in most fat burners, they usually fall into one of two categories. First, mildly effective ingredients that only work when you already have your diet and training dialed in. Second, underdosed or overhyped compounds with little to no real-world impact. And yet, people continue to buy them, over and over again. Why? Because the marketing is powerful. The labels are designed to look legit. The names sound intense. Thermoblast, Shred Core, Fat Incinerator X. Add a few before and after photos. A shredded influencer, and suddenly you've got a product that sells. But here's a controversial question that no one seems to be asking. If these ingredients work so well, why aren't doctors handing them out instead of recommending diet and exercise? Let that sink in. If these pills were truly powerful fat-burning tools with proven results, wouldn't they be part of standard medical practice? Wouldn't your physician write a prescription for a fat burner the same way they do for cholesterol medication or blood pressure? But they don't, because the real, lasting fat loss still comes down to the boring stuff: calorie balance, strength training, quality sleep, and consistency. Most doctors, and good coaches, know that the road to sustainable fat loss isn't a shortcut. It's a path built on behavior change, not a capsule. Now, I'm not saying all supplements are worthless. There are a few that support your fitness journey when used strategically. But fat burners, as a category, are overhyped and oversold. They give the illusion of progress without the substance. So the next time you see a label claiming, "melt fat fast," ask yourself, is this science-backed? Or just smart branding? Because the ingredients may sound cool, but most of them deliver little more than an elevated heart rate and an expensive bathroom break. Let me tell you about one of my clients. Let's call her Jess. Jess came to me saying she had just found a fat burner that changed everything. She swore it was magic. She was more energized. She wasn't snacking as much. And the weight started to come off. She looked at me with this fire in her eyes and said, "I finally found something that works." Now here's where it gets interesting. At the same time she started taking the fat burner, she also began tracking her meals for the first time. She cut out late-night binges, started sleeping a full 8 hours, and drank more water daily than she ever had before. Oh, and she was working out 3 to 4 times a week, with a structured plan. So I asked her, "Do you really think it's the pill? Or could it be all the other things you're doing that are finally working together?" She paused, and then she laughed. That moment captures what I call the placebo power. When someone starts a supplement, especially one marketed as a quick fix, it can trigger a mindset shift. It feels like you're taking action, like you're finally in control. And that feeling, that surge of motivation, is real. It's powerful. It often leads to better decisions in other areas of your life. You start saying no to junk food. You stick to your workout schedule. You drink more water. You go to bed earlier. You're suddenly on track, not because the pill changed your body, but because it changed your focus. It's what psychologists call the placebo effect. You believe something is working, so your behavior aligns with that belief. And in the context of fat burners, it's not the ingredients creating the change, it's the mindset. This isn't to say the placebo effect is bad. In fact, it's one of the strongest forces in behavior change. But the danger comes when people give all the credit to the pill, instead of the habits they built while taking it. That's where the myth continues and people keep chasing supplements instead of strategy. Here's the truth. The real fat burner is consistency. It's that moment when you start showing up for yourself daily. It's eating in alignment with your goals, even when you don't feel like it. It's choosing strength training over shortcuts, sleep over stress, hydration over hype. Supplements can feel like they're helping, because they spark action. But that spark can just as easily come from a structured program, a supportive coach, or even a new gym membership. You don't need a stimulant in a capsule to believe in yourself. And if that fat burner got Jess to finally pay attention to her habits, maybe that was her entry point. But we both knew, deep down, that the pill wasn't what caused the transformation. It was everything else, the small, repeated actions she was finally consistent with. So if you're listening to this and thinking about trying a fat burner, ask yourself, what am I really looking for? Is it the pill, or is it the permission to start showing up differently? Because maybe, just maybe, the real fat burner was the consistency we made along the way. Now let's get into a question I get all the time. Who should be using fat burners? Are they ever helpful, or is the whole category a total waste? Here's the honest answer. Fat burners can be useful for a very specific group of people. But chances are, if you're listening to this podcast while folding laundry or meal prepping, you're probably not in that group, and that's okay. Because fat burners are not meant for general weight loss. They're not for beginners. And they're definitely not for people still figuring out their basic habits. Let's break this down. First, we have competitive athletes, specifically bodybuilders or physique competitors in the final stages of contest prep. We're talking about people who already have incredibly low body fat and need to drop that last 1 or 2% to step on stage. These are individuals who are training daily, tracking every macro, and working with coaches. In that context, a small increase in thermogenesis from a fat burner might give them a slight edge. But again, this is about advanced refinement. It's not about losing the first 15 pounds, it's about manipulating the final details. Second, fat burners might help advanced lifters or athletes who are already lean and trying to go from, say, 12% to 8% body fat. Maybe they're preparing for a photo shoot, a competition, or just hitting a personal goal. These people already have strong habits in place. Their diet is tight, their sleep is consistent, their stress is low, and they're hitting every training session with intention. In that kind of disciplined environment, adding a mild thermogenic supplement might help suppress appetite or boost energy slightly during a calorie deficit. It's not magic, but in a dialed-in system, small tweaks can add up. Third, fat burners can occasionally benefit highly structured individuals who have 90% of their lifestyle already optimized. And I want to emphasize that 90% dialed in. That means training at least 4 to 5 times per week, hitting your nutrition goals consistently, drinking enough water, managing stress, and getting quality sleep. In that case, a fat burner can serve as a tool to enhance what's already working. But even then, it's still a tool, not a foundation. And that brings me to something important I need to say. especially for anyone still on the fence. No supplement replaces real food or a structured training program. I don't care if it's endorsed by your favorite influencer with suspicious abs. If you're not eating in a controlled calorie range, if you're skipping workouts, and if you're running on 5 hours of sleep and stress snacking every night, no fat burner is going to change your body. This isn't about willpower, it's about strategy. And when people lean on supplements too early in their journey, they miss the fundamentals. Let me say something that might sound harsh, but it comes from a place of truth. Most people don't need fat burners. They need a therapist, a habit tracker, and a good night's sleep. I've coached hundreds of clients, and I can't tell you how many come to me wanting to try the latest metabolism booster when they're still eating out 5 nights a week, skipping breakfast, and burning themselves out on cardio. It's not that they're lazy or unmotivated. It's that they're distracted by the wrong solution. They're convinced that the problem is a slow metabolism when, in reality, it's poor sleep hygiene and emotional eating. And I get it. It's way easier to pop a pill than it is to face your habits, your stress, or your relationship with food. But those are the things that actually move the needle. So if you're not a competitive athlete or someone deep into a lean-out phase, skip the pills for now. Focus on dialing in your nutrition, strength training, hydration, recovery, and mindset. Because here's the truth. If a fat burner ever does become helpful in your journey, it'll be when you don't need it. When your habits are already working. When your system is already locked in. And when you're looking for a 1% edge, not a 40-pound solution. So before you spend another $1 on a shiny bottle with a name like Ultra Shred Extreme, ask yourself, have I done the real work first? Because if the foundation isn't built, the supplement won't save it. Alright, we've talked about the myths, the marketing, and the madness behind fat burners. So now let's shift gears and get into what actually works. No hype, no fluff, just real, proven strategies you can count on. First and most important, energy balance. This is the foundation of fat loss. You need to be in a caloric deficit, which means burning more calories than you consume. No fat burner can override this. You can take the most aggressive thermogenic on the market, but if you're eating in a surplus, you're not going to lose body fat. Caloric deficit is king. Always has been. Always will be. But, and this is a big one, you want to lose fat. Not just weight. That means preserving muscle while you cut body fat. And to do that, you need to be strength training consistently. I recommend 3 to 4 days a week of solid, structured resistance training. That can be with free weights, machines, body weight, or resistance bands, whatever you have access to. The key is progressive overload. Challenge your muscles over time. Get stronger. Build and maintain lean mass. Because muscle is metabolically active tissue. It keeps your metabolism higher, your body tighter, and your fat loss sustainable. Next up, protein. A high-protein diet is essential for body composition goals. It helps preserve muscle during a cut, supports recovery, and keeps you feeling full. Aim for at least 0.7 to 1 gram of protein per pound of goal body weight per day. That might sound like a lot, but it adds up quickly when you plan ahead. Think lean meats, eggs, Greek yogurt, tofu, protein shakes, whatever fits your preferences. Now here's one that's super underrated. Non-exercise activity thermogenesis. Or NEAT. This is all the movement you do outside of formal exercise. Walking, standing, fidgeting, cleaning, taking the stairs. These small actions can add up to hundreds of extra calories burned per day. And they don't drain your recovery like cardio sometimes can. One of the simplest things you can do to boost fat loss is to increase your daily steps. Aim for 8.000 to 10.000 steps a day if you can. Go for walks after meals. Take calls while walking. Set movement breaks if you work at a desk. NEAT is free and it works. Now let's talk supplements, but the smart kind. The kind that support your routine, not replace it. Here's what I actually recommend. Based on science and real-world results. Protein powder. Super convenient, especially if you struggle to hit your daily protein target through food alone. It's not magic, it's just powdered food. But it helps. Creatine. One of the most studied and effective supplements out there. It improves strength, power, and muscle retention. And no, it doesn't make you bulky or bloated if you take it correctly. 5 grams a day, every day, that's it. Electrolytes. Especially if you're training hard, sweating a lot, or eating lower carb. Sodium, potassium, and magnesium support hydration, performance, and even reduce fatigue and cramps. You can get them from Whole Foods or a simple mix. Just don't ignore them. Caffeine. In moderation. Yes, it can increase alertness, support workouts, and slightly boost energy expenditure. But use it wisely. Don't abuse it. And if it messes with your sleep or gives you the jitters, pull it back. Sleep matters more than any pre-workout buzz. Notice what's not on this list. Fat burners with flashy labels and overpromises. Because here's the spicy truth. A scoop of protein powder and a solid training plan will outwork any $70 burner with thermo in its name. And I stand by that. Real results come from consistency, not chemistry, from habits, not hacks. So if you've been chasing shortcuts, let this be your wake-up call. You don't need more stimulation, you need a system. Get your calories right, strength train, eat your protein, move more throughout the day, sleep, hydrate, stay consistent. That's the real formula. It's not sexy, but it works every single time. Alright, let's wrap this up. Here's the bottom line. Most fat burners are overhyped and underdeliver. They're marketed as miracle solutions. But in reality, they're just caffeine blends in flashy packaging. The science behind them is shaky. The effects are minimal, and they're not going to do the work for you. That doesn't mean all supplements are useless. But you have to use them smartly, not desperately. Supplements should support a solid foundation, not serve as a substitute for habits you haven't built yet. Real fat loss comes from consistency, not capsules. It comes from eating in a controlled calorie range, strength training regularly, managing stress, and sleeping like it's your job. That's the stuff that actually changes your body long term. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever tried a fat burner that did literally nothing? Or maybe one that made you feel like a squirrel on Red Bull? Tell me on Instagram at Eva Carter Fitness. I want the tea. I love hearing your stories. And let's be honest, some of these supplement adventures are wild. So as you go forward, remember this. Stay skeptical, stay smart, and please, don't confuse stimulant overload with progress. You're not broken. You don't need fixing. You just need a plan, some patience, and a whole lot of consistency. Thanks for listening. Make sure you follow the podcast for more no BS, science-backed fitness content. I'll catch you in the next episode. The information shared in this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only. While we strive to provide science-backed fitness and nutrition insights, this content should not be considered medical advice. Every individual's body, health history, and needs are unique, and what works for one person may not work for another. Before making any significant changes to your diet, exercise routine, or health practices, we strongly recommend consulting with a qualified healthcare professional, doctor, or registered dietitian. Your health and well-being come first, and professional guidance ensures that your fitness journey is safe, effective, and tailored to you.